Welcome to The Arts Talk, the show where I surround myself with people who are smarter and more attractive than myself and try to blend in.
Oh, man.
All right, tonight we got Nicole Green, and she's going to tell us about her adventures in art. What's up, Nicole? How you doing?
Ooh, I'm doing well.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm chilling.
Yeah, it's a weird time, but this has been a good week. And what are we? We're Thursday today, right? This is Thursday.
It's Thursday?
Arts Talks come out on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
It is Thursday. Oh, man.
Thursday.
Thursday
That's weird, dude. That's weird.
So what do you do? What you been up to? This is a weird time for artists. It's really hard for us. You're still employed in this moment? You're healthy?
I'm healthy. I'm lucky enough to have a job where I can kind of, ride this wave of mystery and nonsense. So, because I'm an art professor too, so I can teach from home.
So what do you teach?
I teach, I'm an art professor, but right now I'm teaching art history also.
Mm-hmm.
So I teach art history, and right now I'm doing art history and art appreciation. I'm very happy that I'm not doing design, which is also what I do, which is extremely hands-on and super freaking fun because you're in the studio and everything. But in front of the, camera, it's just like,
You zooming it?
here we go. Yeah.
zooming it? That's
Yeah, but
pretty
I'm
wild.
not doing the studio classes right now. I'm just doing the history class. So that's kind of cool because they're happy to just have a live human being at this point.
Right.
They're like, you're a person who's not living in my house that I'm quarantined with. So, hi.
Is it weird to teach them? What's the difference, from just teaching a classroom and a Zoom classroom? What do you
It's
see
like
the
a
biggest
mil-
thing?
ugh,
You need two
it's-
cameras? I feel like you need two cameras. Two cameras. One maybe. I don't know. How does it work? Right?
Well, she's not she's not teaching art imagery or anything. She doesn't have to paint
Oh,
to the
okay.
camera or anything.
Yeah, because right now I'm just doing the history part. But there still is a huge difference. I mean, in my class, I'm a very in-person type of person. I'm walking around my class, I'm joking, I'm having fun with my students, I'm throwing
Do you
stuff
take
at
their
them.
phones when they're texting?
No, I just put them in class really? That
Yeah.
better be interesting.
Yeah.
Share, I
That's
joke
a
with
good
them.
way. That's
Yeah.
a good way.
I used to way back in the day had a Nerf gun, but that after the whole classroom shooting stuff,
Yeah,
that wasn't
I
cool
get it.
anymore.
That gets
so-
weird, man.
It's rough.
Yeah, if someone was talking, I'd just be like, be done. But
But isn't that kind of sad that, some of these things, of course they're not fun to joke around with, but that it's making classroom settings different? Those types of scenarios. Now you really have to kind of...
Do you think the kids are learning as much this way?
With what do you mean with this being
Just having to
hypersensitive?
do it digitally and
Oh,
share through the
digitally.
internet instead of going to class. What do you think? Do you think the engagement of being with a teacher and instructor, do you think they would do better if they were there?
Okay, yeah, that's it. So real quick, I'm gonna say yes, it's different because you have to be hypersensitive. So it does take out the innocent humor that used to be involved with the stuff in order to kind of bow down to the reverence of the seriousness of the gun violence. So that kind of got lost. There's some sweetness in there. There's water guns. There's but you got to
Yeah, kind of...
So yeah, so that kind of whatever. But with your question, which was different, heck yeah, it's different with the kids online because, the energy is different. And when you're in a class like art or art history where the energy flow is a real thing, hey, let's do this, and I'm getting excited about that, and we're going back and forth, and everyone's mind is open and bright and ready to receive, and they're engaged. That's one thing, if you and I engage right now, this is all cool. But if I sit and I'm now mediated through a screen, I'm just another show. I could just be a commercial at that point, right?
Right.
And another thing too is not all the students necessarily have laptops.
Right.
And some of the students are in some dire straits at home. So I might have a student that the only reason why they could do their work was because they were in a different environment. But now the best they can do is hide in a closet and try to do their class, or go and sit in their car, or they're home all the time, and whatever they were escaping socially that was a little bit horrid is happening all the time. So they're showing up with that help me look on their face.
Sometimes I think in art, it's the showing up and doing the thing. When I work with musicians, I've watched these bands come in to my studio, and they're really good at playing Xbox when they come to my studio. And when, 2 to 6 months later, they start to become real musicians because they paid a few bucks, they got in an environment where they're supposed to be, they got the tools and equipment that are necessary for what they're doing in that space, and, they have a few hours and they work, And that's the one thing, like, I didn't always like going to school, but being there was the only thing that got me to learn the stuff. Because if someone told me to at home, I would have just got to the answer as opposed to absorbing the information sometimes. So that's the one, when it comes to education, I think, like, we're humans and we're organic, and it's good to be in that space with someone who can teach you something you don't know, as opposed to ask you a question that you have to find the answer to, and then if you answer it right, then they give you a check mark.
Right.
In art, I think it's especially interesting to watch how people are remote from each other, because it's such a visual and it's like a cerebral experience to be there in the space and see it, with colors and shadows.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing people forget is that it's cerebral and it's emotional, because art is a form of communication.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Everything that we do and that they're doing, they're trying to figure out another way, or the way that they know best, and you're trying to help them fine-tune how to communicate. So, and that happens, with other people there.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting somewhere isolated and learning how to just kind of communicate something, you can do it, but it's nothing like being in the company of other people. Like I say, there's a reason why you see colonies that are art colonies.
Yeah.
Well, artists are living together. There's no mailman colonies, there's no bag checker, or whatever colonies. But an artist, like, what other profession has dwellings where you want to live with people, near people, have your neighbors do something that is the same? And artists do that because we're communicating and we're connecting all
like
the
I
time.
said, it's emotional, and like emotions are contagious in a space, and when everybody's in their own place and they watch you give a lesson and then they go back to do their assignment, and they haven't had that experience where they didn't hear someone else's interjection, and that stuff, I don't know, it's so valuable. I miss it. I really do.
Big time.
So.
I know that we have options, right, as a professor. So we can just give them the assignments. You have the textbook or whatever, do it.
Yeah.
We'll check in here and there. And then you can say, here's the assignment, here's the textbook. You can either and I'll have one day where I'll show up and answer some questions for you. That's like, golden. Wow, I get to see this person. But you can also offer some actual real lectures, And I feel like in my classes in art, I do that. I offer some real lectures because I feel like that type of connection to the students and to help the subject come alive is paramount, right?
Yeah.
You can't just be like, go do some art, good luck, here's some freaking, definitions and shit.
Yeah, because art... It's interesting. I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was trying to get my thoughts together on what it was because you're in art education, and it was ideal behind study versus practice, and so don't get me wrong. I think that art history and education is awesome. I don't have anything against it. I'm not that kind of artist. I enjoy the things I learn along the way in my artistic process.
Yeah.
And I tend to make art in the moment with the things I have, and I want it to speak from that moment without a lot of influence from things that other people did in the past, right? So that's my own form of art. But I wonder, is there any other industry, where you can get away with that? Because there's all kinds of forms of art education. Whereas, if you're a lawyer, you have to go through the process of passing the bar. You know what I mean? Doctors, go to med school. Engineers, they need to know the basic fundamentals of the mathematics.
Okay.
Whereas, art is so rad because you can study all the awesome things people did before you and how people got to these techniques and styles and just entire when you can learn anything in art, you're learning art. And you just can't do that in mathematics. You can't just go, well, I like to do it this way. You know what I mean?
Right,
but if it
right.
works for you in art, then you've learned something effective that you can move forward with.
Right.
So like when I think of art education, I think, you know, whatever works for the artist, you know, to get them where they want to be, the art they want to make and share. Do you see in your art students like the hunger for art or the hunger to get through a class?
I see both, because when I'm teaching like a general class that can be accessed from anybody, well, they can all be accessed from anybody, but the general classes that you have like your nursing majors and whatever majors in, then they're just getting through the class. And then my other classes that are just like usually taken by art majors because they're so specific, then they're really into it. But the thing is, I teach everybody the same, because my art philosophy and my teaching philosophy and my personal reason why I'm in the game is because, like how you were saying, okay, so art history, yeah, that can be, as far as like learning other people's art and stuff like that, and not wanting that kind of shit to like influence what you do, I'm down with that. Yeah. But the thing about art history is it's not just about this is what these people did, this is their methodology. If you really think about it in a sense, is this is what happened in the world, and this is how these people told the story.
Yeah, that's what I love.
So it's the style of how they tell the story of what happened. And a lot of times that story comes out so fucking true because it's unadulterated by politics and bullshit. You can get a streamline to what was going on, and that's exciting.
Just like this raw emotion that just,
exactly.
It's a screenshot of that time.
Right.
For that person, yeah.
It's like their social media. Right? That's what it was.
All right, guys.
You know.
With that in mind.
Okay.
No, I'm just going to try to expand on it a little bit.
Okay.
Think about the time we're in. Think about what art is going to do right now.
Yeah.
I'm just tripping out on everything around me, and I'm more engaged in making art than I have been in months or years.
Yeah.
I know Fernando is. I mean, you know, we're on quarantine lockdown. This place is closed for months at a time, you know. We had this space, and this kid's in here every single night, painting for hours and hours. And then Rachel's over here, and they're just making these giant monster pieces. And so, whereas before we were all so busy, like in the business of art, that when it stopped, all this art started budding. You know, people are painting the closed-up buildings. They're spending more time at home, just vegging out on different ideas and stuff. Where like I feel. Do you see a change in art after this? Do you see?
Of course, anything. I mean, you could have something ridiculous and stupid happen on the news, and it can affect art. But right now, you're talking about like you're talking about a moment that's going to be in social study books. Like your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids are going to learn about this part of this piece of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to have a major change. But for us, like right now, yeah, this has cut out a lot of our ways to socialize and the way we kick it, right? So of course we're home all the time. So how do we default think? We're going to start making stuff that, without us probably even realizing, is going to communicate whatever you feel about this. I mean, to be honest, I work so much that part of this, I'm like, oh, the fall semester? You mean I have to be home? So I get to go into my studio?
Yeah.
I'm going to go into my studio, and you know what I mean? I can broadcast and teach class from my art studio. That's amazing. I think for us it might be okay.
Do you feel it changing things about what you teach, the way you teach, considering we're in such a historical moment in history? I mean, this thing that's happening right now. And I'm a weird guy. I'm all tinfoil hat, so I think it's going to get even weirder. And I think we're going to see some weird things happening in the future.
Oh, yeah.
That are going, I mean, because I look at it from like a very extreme point of view. I think that that art is going to change drastically. I think like the monetization, I think that maybe some of the big gatekeepers of what art is and what decides the value of art is going to change in this period of time.
You think it'll get more like
Go ahead.
political because of the times? You think art's
I
going to
think
become
there's going to be a lot. Like right now, we're seeing a
political?
lot right now of political and cause.
It's a big trend right now.
Art. I think when people look back on this particular period of time, it's
so
gonna
like
be filled with that.
Like I guess if we're trying to make like an assumption on what art's going to be, like how can you maybe make some dough from being an artist in this time? You think people should venture in like political art? I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
They're gonna have to venture into whatever
like political,
touches the situation.
Because for me right now, like as an artist, I'm like, fuck, how can we make? If you're just an artist, right? I don't know. Like, what's the best way? I think right now, maybe for a lot of people, if they make some sort of
if you're
political
thinking
art,
in the terms of like outcome as far as like earning or something like that, then you might be thinking about it the wrong way. I think we're just going to see a natural progression of like some hyper political art right now. You know what I mean? And then I think it will turn into something. It will have more from what it was before to something else with that at the arc of it. But there's wild times out there. People are gonna make wild paintings. You know.
But even like painting the boards on the buildings, that was kind of like a political.
that was,
Yeah, and it's
things are
happening.
going
Things
on.
like that are happening all over.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's already starting. That's a little more obvious than the COVID stuff, but.
And it's interesting to see everybody's different interpretation of the time. You know.
So when you're talking about the painting of the boards, you're talking about with the political climate of like the whole Black Lives Matter and all that kind of stuff. So even this moment is going to have, it puts it's heightening, it's forcing a type of awareness whether people want it or not. So that is going to also, color everything, which happens. So, you have social art or social realistic art that comes, you had it in the 70s, and then you keep going, and then we had it in the 90s and hip hop music, and then we had it, again, we're having it now. So that's kind of like a natural part of it, even before you have it in
I
the
look
70s,
forward
right?
to seeing like a big shift in like the power structures of art, just like the power structures of everything else. Everybody's questioning everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying no more of this, no more of that. We are the people, and this is what we want. And I hope that happens in art, because I don't think that necessarily the things that are highly celebrated are the best art or should be the most valuable art. I'm not mad at them for having gotten there, but I think a lot of it is from that space where there's a decider, and they're a decider because they found that position.
Ooh, I have a perfect Lakers fan. Okay, so check it, right?
Let's hear it. I'm excited too.
Yeah. Okay, so check it. Like in the 60s going into the 70s, okay, the 70s. We know what happened in the 60s, in the States, the 60s was foulness. That was when like people were getting like sprayed and all this shit. And then, you go into the 70s, and in the 70s you have all these different like groups of people. You have black folks, Mexican folks, Asian folks, women, everybody just like, woo, we want our power, we want to be heard. So that's what's going just on in society. But in the art galleries, what was happening is that you're coming at a situation where the art gallery, the white box, was featuring, it was ran mostly by white males, right? So all these different genres, when you're talking about modernism, pop art, all this kind of stuff, were mostly featuring white males. And we also had critics,
Right.
And the critics are being like hardcore revered, right? So what happened was during the 70s, when people were saying like, fuck you, we don't care about you, where they were being told like, oh, like, you would have situations where, say, if I were to if like I did like hard edge, like freaking modern art, and you did like abstract expressionism, right? I would get put into a show with black folks because I'm a black person. It doesn't matter. This person can be
the genre of art.
Right. And even though, say, like you and I did the same type, you would get into a genre. You would get into a show that everybody was doing the same type of art.
Right.
But I would get into a show where it's just mostly black folks, and you get into a show where it's mostly like, what's your ethnicity?
I don't know, like Latin.
Nah, but where are your parents from? Man?
Guadalajara, Nicaragua. So,
Oh, see, dope. See, okay, so Guadalajara, Nicaragua, what? But at Nicaragua show, he'd get into that. But honestly, at that point, they probably put you in a Mexican show because, like, you know.
But isn't that the weirdest thing?
People, right?
Yeah.
And you get into a woman show. That's it. You can, and so that's how we would be separated, right? And that was like how the art world worked. But at a certain point, people were like, you know what? In the outside, the gallery, in the windows happening out there, people were saying, fuck this, we want our shit, we want our shit. So what happened in the galleries was like, okay, you know, black folks were like, you know what? I don't know. Fuck you. I'm going to have a show, do whatever, I don't care. And you're going to have a show, do whatever, and you're going to have a show, whatever. Instead of hearing like, oh, but everything that I do has to do like black folks or you, like whatever. So that everybody like claimed their space to do whatever the fuck they wanted because they're sick of the gallerists. They're sick of like the
tribalism.
Yeah, like they're sick of people telling them that their shit was just like all the same and basic because it had to do with ethnic stuff or gender, right? So that shit got totally broken in the 70s, and that was like the death of the critic because they're like, yeah, I use some ethnic shit in my art, and it's not craft, it's high art still. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get it, fuck you. Me and all the people that came to see me are gonna celebrate because I'm dope, and I don't care if you don't recognize it. So the thing is that happened in the 70s, and I think like now we're having something similar to where, you know, whatever people do is defined by themselves and respected by their own groups, and nobody is going to give a shit anymore.
And I think that like you're absolutely right.
I'm sorry I curse so much, y'all.
Oh, okay.
Holy moly.
This is arts talk.
My ears are bleeding.
I know your ears aren't bleeding. You better quit.
So I've seen all that like movement. You know, if you look at like say like the last 40 years or 50 years. And you've seen these changes since that time where people are like, we're just going to do this and we're going to find a way to monetize it to a certain level. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the power structures of like, you know, say if you look at art as a market, you know, if you were to just say there's money in this space and these are the people that do it and these are the people that sell it. If you look at art as a market, then the power structure of that kind of decided what the valuable art was, it never really went away. We just took a little bit more of it over the course of years, you know, whether it be African Americans or women or, you know, whatever the group of people was that said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to find my audience, you know, and you can't take my audience away from me because they're mine.
And to find my value.
Right. I think that right now we might see something where the people start to catch on to it, where you know, if you go and you buy some old painting from some guy whose name you can't pronounce, or if you get, you know, a Banksy piece because it's the hot new edgy stuff, you know, someone decided how much that was worth, and the money value on it became the reason why it was so great sometimes, even if it was very little to it.
But now it's all clout. That's what art's becoming, man.
Right. It's
who's. And it's like I just see a lot of like romanticized ideas of like, okay, yeah, keep the tradition going, but I think it's like a phoenix, dude. Like,
we're gonna rise from the ashes, bro.
Yeah, of course. It's like, dude, I don't know. Honestly, like that. I mean, maybe just me. I'm like, all right, like the old style of things is just not working anymore. That's why like art's always dying, and that's the romanticized idea of like art's always dying, and it's the truth. I mean, I see like you could see it right now. There's like like a renaissance of art, and all these crazy pop like people or in these, you know, big iconic people have the biggest influence on what art is now. Like Virgo.
So like art isn't dying. People die. And so maybe things in that era go.
Yeah, there you go.
Sort of with them, and we remember them, but they change and something comes better. But art doesn't die. And so like, but when you say people die, I think that if artists die and their ideas change with the next generations, then I think that the critics and the funders of these galleries that say this is what we want to see, and this is who we want to see it from.
So maybe like shouldn't artists be in those like seats, like people that are in the time, living in the time, be in those seats? Because but it also goes back to like, how do you want to be remembered as an artist? Do you want to be like this like person that's trying to keep something alive, like a certain style alive, always again and again and again?
There's room for both, I think.
You think so?
Yeah, the people who want to like, I mean, you're the art history buff.
Yeah,
Like,
I
to
know.
hold on to the
I'm like
great
trying to keep
things
all my
about art.
comments in line. Like,
Yeah, get in there. This is your thing.
Okay, so it changes depending on what the obviously what the topic is, right? I don't think necessarily like art dies, but usually a movement is either going to push what is happening even further, or it's going to make a left turn and like kill the grandfather type deal.
go
You know what I mean?
somewhere else.
And it's just going to make a total left turn. So it just depends on like the emotion of the moment in time. If it intensifies, then the art is going to intensify in the same direction. So as opposed to just having like, I'm having a brain something. But instead of having like one particular style, you have the post version of it, right? And which is pushing it.
The neo version.
Yeah, exactly.
Neo to whatever the word is, and you'll be all right.
Okay,
Isn't
so
that
instead of having
weird, huh?
impressionism, you'll have post-impressionism. And then if you're still pushing, then you're going to Fauvist, which is like even more hardcore, right? It's just your crazy grandkid, just like doing even more so. But that's, because everybody at that point, they were trying to really like differentiate themselves from the camera and all this stuff, right? So, but if the flavor in the air, the flavor is like, we're making a left turn with what's going on, then the art will make a left turn, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then you were saying something else. What was the last thing that you said?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay. Yeah.
But it's crazy just to see, like, I don't know.
Who determines what? That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, and you guys are talking about like how critics determine, but it's like, how do you get that rep to be a critic, right? Like, how do you get that rep?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
How do you get that rep?
That's a beautiful question.
Who gives you that rep?
Okay, so
Is it a made-up rep? Just because you got a lot of people in your gallery
You
or
just have
something?
to claim it.
Okay.
Oh, maybe.
So check it.
You just get the claimers.
Exactly, right? You have to write something that got published into a book that was adopted into a school, so you have all these new artists thinking that what you say is important, and then when
Yeah.
you show up, they're like, what? That's important.
Do you think it's a surprise to most critics when they become a critic?
No.
They're aiming?
Well, maybe. Yeah, they're aiming, But let me say one thing. So what you said was I liked that, and so this is what I'm going to say. So this is the thing, for me, this is the underbelly of the art world. Can I say the underbelly of the art world?
Yeah.
Sounds inappropriate.
Everything's inappropriate.
usually
You don't
very
like it up
vague.
anymore?
I like the way it sounds. I like the way it sounds.
Imagine it in a lace dress, with no ends. No.
Oh.
So,
Tell me more.
yeah.
I mean, back on the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the underbelly of art.
In the lace pants.
Okay, so this is what I say. I'll do this real quick. It'll only take like 2 minutes. So say like you're an artist. We're gonna split this up. You're an artist, okay? Let's say you're a gallerist and you're a collector, right? So here you are. You're the artist, and we're gonna talk about like a little bit how the art world works. And this is the underbelly for me. So say you're an artist, right? And you have like a team of artists and you do some like really cool funky stuff and you have some homies there and everything is going really cool and you're like, you thought of some new way to create something and you have a couple friends there. So you have a show. And we'll say that the gallerist happens to go to the show. And you're the one that was the innovator of that style, but she sees something that maybe two of your friends did as directed by you. But she sees it, she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. She's like, you know what, I'm gonna take those two and I'm gonna bring those to the gallery. So she talks to your friends, right? You're gonna bring them to the gallery. So you got them, and you're at the gallery like, oh, look at this shit. And you're like, don't even worry about it, I got you, because I got a collector like you. And this collector's gonna freaking love it. So the collector comes, and it's like, oh my God, that is so dope. And you have all this stuff, and you buy the work, right? So now these people are just like, oh, now they become the representatives of what you created. So that creates stress in your camp. And what are these people gonna be called? Sellouts, a little bit. But you're like, you know what? You are so dope. You have a couple of friends who are like, God, you have that? So you invite a friend, and your friend sees it, and your friend's like, I love that. I'm going to have another show. So you invite a couple other people. So maybe you come this time and somebody else, and you have it, right? And so now it's like, hey, your friend says, you know what, I love that. My friend has one, but can I have it in green?
Hey, do you really love that?
Yeah.
Do you really love that?
Love it. Can I have it in green and black? Because your friend's like, that's gonna match my living room so well.
My sofa.
Right. And maybe for you, part of your manifesto was we don't use green.
Oh.
Right? But they're gonna say, but I'm gonna give you $25,000. And you're gonna say like,
Yeah, exactly.
I need to pay bills, I need money, right?
There's a number where everybody's gonna become a
Right.
sellout, I think.
So then that person gets it. So she gets it and whatever. And now both of you guys are in art news and whatever because you have this like very intimate collection of XYZ. So then you're like putting them together. So you're making the money, and you're the one that decides who's doing whatever. So maybe some of those other people like, what the hell, you sold out? And I thought this was about XYZ, but now whatever, right?
I think it's really up to the individuals themselves.
It
That's
is.
what art should be, right?
Right.
Individual.
What do you want?
Whatever
Totally.
you want it to be. So it's like, if you want to sell out and you want to do this, dude, power to you, because, I mean, you're not going to be complaining not being able to eat.
Right.
That's the romanticized idea of art, right? Like the struggling artist.
Right.
And that's what goes back to, that's why I'm so kind of like strong on this idea that art is always dying, because they want to see that artist die.
Yeah.
He's struggling. Do you want to just keep him alive in the struggle? Like,
I think
how
there's
much do you want?
something about that.
You know, when you favor an artist, like a musician or something, you're like, all right, I'm glad he's doing that, right? Like, I don't
Dying
know.
artist is usually
Right.
the one that like lives the longest.
That's just the craziest
seriously.
thing to me.
Right.
And you don't even get to enjoy it. But okay, let me just wrap this up real quick because I want to tell you. So you're an artist. You're a sellout. Your homie's a sellout. The other people are pissed because they haven't got a low-key chance to sell out because they're hungry too. Which we won't admit, right?
What if the message
So-
is like not narcissism, right? What if you need to help some people out, and that's why
Right.
you're selling out yourself?
Exactly. Hey, nobody's gonna judge them, but the thing is artists, we start to even judge ourselves, right? Especially if somebody else
course.
accuses us, right?
Yeah.
So now, like,
Gotta eat.
you're the collector, and you're just like, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm in this magazine, I have this collection, I have whatever, and you're like, whatever, I'm making my money, y'all just handle it, whatever, I'm providing.
Am I really?
Right. Well, so what
whatever,
happens?
dude.
Yeah. So, yeah. Totally, it's your fault. So they freaking make
all
it.
just chilling.
Yeah. She's like, whatever. Deal. Yeah. So you guys are like, screw it. Our whole reputation is jacked up. We've been watered down. We totally contradicted our whole manifesto.
Yeah.
So you guys are like, you know what? This is what we're gonna do. Screw the gallerist. We're gonna have a show, and we're going to, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have everybody like show, and like we're gonna rent some U-Hauls, and we're gonna have all the art in the U-Hauls, and we're just gonna go have our shows at particular like parking structures, and just the people on the low will know it. So show at this parking structure, show at that. We're just gonna drive, boom, boom, boom. It was dope.
do it all.
Yeah, and we do it, and it was awesome. So we're gonna have a second one. It's gonna be the mobile show, and somehow she gets wind like, nice try, right?
Dang it.
Cruella de Vil.
Right. There you go.
Good
That was
twist-
Mr. Burns a
good
little
twist
bit.
your
That's Mr.
mustache.
Burns.
Oh, shit. Oh, man.
So she finds out.
Yeah.
So now she goes and she shows up. She's like, I know you guys are doing this like low key, like dope stuff, but hey, you know, whatever. I'm going to whoever I invite into this white box. I got a whole collective of people that are ready to jump on what you saw and what your friends saw. So I have a line of hungry people waiting for that.
Yeah.
So she has power to say what's important. And as the buyer, they have power to say what's important, right? So the thing is, but as an artist, you also have power. So what the underbelly is, who determines what's important in art and who is really pulling the strings. Is it the artist creating the work? Is it the gallerist who gives them the space to show? Or is it the person who purchases it and now it goes to Art News, Art in America, Art whatever the hell, and then goes to this biennial, this whatever, and becomes famous because of you and your cronies that happen to run those galleries that are connected to these amazing events? Who is controlling this? All those variables. And then there's an art student over there who wants to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to be an artist. Who's in control of their future?
Yeah, it's like art trigonometry. Like, how are you ever supposed to know the best route? You know?
Right.
Which came first?
What can,
The artist or the collector? You
So,
know?
yeah.
With that said, I think I truly hope I'm right. There's some kind of awakening in art that says, buy the art you like. You know what I mean? Don't be told what you like. Because I think we've been in that place for a long time. Even after, like...
It's delicious. Sorry.
Even
this
after
water's great.
the art revolution that you speak of, I think the last big one that we've had.
Yeah.
I really hope so, because I think that sometimes someone puts a broomstick and a chair in the corner of a big white room and gets paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying it isn't art. I'm just saying that I think there...
But is it art though, right? There's a level of effort that you have to kind of like...
I'm not saying it's not art, but I think people value effort. I do think they do.
I like it.
I know I do.
You know? I mean, unless... I don't know, then it goes down to who are your loved ones, right? Because when you start to sell something, your loved ones and friends usually are the ones to kind of acknowledge it. So then it goes back to, like, is that your loved one? Like, that's giving you the amount of leverage that you can be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put a banana on the fucking wall, and bam, right? Like, the fuck?
He made gangs of money off that.
Exactly.
Like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's so
Someone bought it,
Parties. You had parties for that kind of
For the
stuff.
banana, duct tape bananas?
Dude, that's insane.
I'm not mad at him.
Me
If someone's
either,
dumb
bro.
enough to give you a bunch of money for a
Art to
banana
you.
taped to a wall, that's art to me, because you just...
It's a hustle at the end of the
what,
day, right?
What just happened there?
It's hustle, man.
You communicated something to the right spot, the wallet, somebody, all the way to the bank
wall.
account of somebody. Yeah.
And I think it goes to the point of art is what it's what you like. When it comes to math, it has to be right?
Yeah.
Art is right to the person who buys it. I love that. I want it in my house. I want it on my couch. I don't care if it's green.
Because it has, I think people, I guess my point is, art is multifunctional.
Yeah.
It always has this aspect of communication inherently, no matter what people say, oh, it was an accident. Okay, but you believed in it enough to like present it, so it communicated something, and if it was accidents can be beautiful, so be it. But the thing is like, because it's multifunctional, then it gives room for everybody to do whatever the hell they want. If you want to create something that moves all these people and is worth $1 million because some person thinks this person thinks it's awesome, so be it. But if you just want to use it as a way to get your emotions out because you're not the best with words, or you have your vocabulary visually is bigger than one that you have orally, then do it. Yeah. And it's a success. That's it. And God forbid somebody understands that language. That's just a joy already. It's a joy to them. It's a joy to you. Success, right? So you really have to understand with art, what's your end game? And if you are an artist, it's forever. It's not like, I can't stand when I hear students say like, yeah, I'm not an artist anymore because I don't draw. I'm like, when being an artist is a condition.
Yeah.
It's not something that you do. It's something that you are. So if you draw and you're like, for some reason you're not able to draw for 8 months, I'm pretty sure either your house is completely rearranged. I'm sure that you have made something probably, like you've sculpted something or you've woodworked something, you've made a piece of furniture. Somehow you have gone to design with the end, manipulated within your life. And that's what an artist is. You're manipulating and designing. It's not like just, I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to paint. It's not
right.
that,
If
right?
you stop and do a flower arrangement for an event, it doesn't necessarily make you an artist. but it doesn't not make you an artist. If there's hobbies,
Right.
I sometimes have to do long division, but it doesn't make me a mathematician.
Right. Oh, for sure.
So I think I wouldn't take anything away from artists who think that a broomstick and a chair in the corner of a big room is somehow impactful and profound. Maybe it's not to me, but I'm not saying it isn't to someone else. Obviously it is. I mean, giant galleries pay lots of money for someone to do something like that, and it invokes something in a lot of people who pay for it. So I'm not mad because it happened or that someone was successful at it. I just hope that when I say I hope there's a change in the structure of art and, you know, the power brokering of ideas and stuff, is that when we look back at this time in history, this, you know, scary, crazy, amazing moment in history, and we don't know what tomorrow brings, that it leads to an honest assessment of art by the people who purchase it, by the people who push it, by the people who make it. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think we're at a pivotal time where it might be a possibility to take, where people are going to start thinking about art like they're thinking about politics, like they're thinking about race issues, like they're thinking about medical issues. All these things that we're questioning things. I hope we question our art. I mean, if I can think of a thing about art history that this moment leads me to ponder on, it's I hope it's a positive jump to the next space, because art's not dying. People are dying. Art is just transforming and transitioning and just spinning into the future like everything else.
Can I clarify what you said? Can I just
Sure,
have you to clarify?
I
So
told
are
you, I
asking
surround
me-
myself with people who are smarter than me and try to blend in.
I'm just curious, did you say that you hope that this era,
I hope it leads to
changes,
something more positive in art. I hope
makes
that
people re-examine art? Is that what
Yeah.
you said? Like re-examine art that is happening right now, or that has happened before as well?
Well, what I think I said, like I told you, short memory. All right. I hope that people question their art as much as they're questioning everything else. You know, put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
I know that if I buy a piece of art, I've spent some time on it. If I do an impulse buy on art, it's because I'm worried someone else is going to get it, and that's how I know I want it back. You know? But when it comes to art, I really think about it before I fill up my space with it. All art isn't the same to me, and I think that's like that with everyone else. We all have our styles, and you know, you just walk into someone's house and know that they have a different idea of what's aesthetically pleasing.
I think the
than
feng
another
shui
person.
aspect of it is very valuable now. You know,
Yeah,
being
we
able to
live.
have that,
We live in our art.
You know,
You know?
that just in the space. You want to fill the space, and you can like put, like for instance, that thing, right? You want to get that. I want it in my space because it makes this space this type of like ambiance or like vibe or energy, right?
It invokes an emotion.
So that's why I think like, I don't know, maybe I am a sellout, but I think about all these things and I'm like, all right, what is this going to bring to this space? That's why how I do things. Like I want to make something in this space, like the feng shui. I really fuck with feng shui. Like,
So like, if you
alright,
took
if
and you put a
this shit in-
broomstick and a chair in the corner of your house, it would not create the same. It would not invoke the same emotion.
Somebody would grab it.
as if it was in a giant room at a big gallery.
100%.
You know,
man.
and everybody's like, "Oh, look at that! What does it say to you?" Otherwise, you just walk in and be like, you know,
You grab the fucking broom.
be like,
Hey,
"There's a
your
broom. You
broom's
need to sweep up over here. When you're done, you can rest in that chair."
Exactly.
But it depends on which room it's in, because what if it was in the bathroom? Then you're gonna be like, damn, like, okay, like
They didn't clean up.
serious about this cleaning shit in the bathroom.
That's true. I guess so.
Or
And
the
then it becomes a
baby's
joke.
room. Or
Then it
like
becomes
whatever.
a joke.
It evokes an emotion or a thought.
That's true. I guess the level of like maybe you can be like, all right, I want people to be a joke with like, but then you're saying like, oh, I'm buying jokes. I guess it depends on the individual.
Can I ask you a question? You said maybe I'm a sell. What's the definition of a sellout to you?
I don't know what everybody makes a sellout to be now.
No,
like,
to you.
The sellout to me?
Yeah, what's the definition of that?
It's like maybe being in certain stores, right? Being on certain like networks and there's certain brands you fit in as a sellout.
Yeah.
Okay,
but that's been so now it's really like thin. There's certain things like you can be like, all right, that person's a sellout. I know it.
But what is the definition of a sellout to you?
I don't know. I really don't.
If
I'm
you-
still
I
in
think-
discovery of that.
I want to.
But I'm willing to. What? Go ahead.
What's yours?
I think that a sellout is somebody that is making something of themselves, however they need to, that people are jealous of, because they didn't do it first.
Well, no, there's. I
Oh,
mean,
this is a good
All right, I
one.
like that.
That's all. Can we all say our definition?
Of course.
What's yours?
Okay.
I guess if I was to categorize, if I was to sell out,
Okay.
I'm not going to say who's a sellout or who isn't a sellout, but if I was to sell out, it would be a return to where I was at a certain point in my life, and that's where I was making art with the intention of results of success, right? I felt like my art was dependent on the success of my art. So I've never made better art than when I let go of that and started making the art that like just spoke to me, whether it takes me 10 years and makes me
Yeah,
feel
exactly.
part-
That's what I've been dwelling on, like that question. When do you start making art for yourself? Because right now, I'm not making art for myself. I'm making it to curate an idea that I have. Like maybe that's my art piece.
That is
Like those
still-
shows are my art pieces because I want them
still
to.
for yourself, because it's a show that you want to do.
But yeah, I guess I'm just dwelling on that. But I really don't know, and I
Are you
want to
going
hear
to
you guys
change your art
based
to
on.
make more money?
If you abandon your principles and do something you say you'd never do,
That's
That's
close
a
to what
very
I'm.
better
This is
suggestion.
where I'm gonna go.
Oh, yeah,
right
I
there.
wanna hear
See,
this.
is why. Okay, I'm gonna keep hearing yours.
But I want to know that because I haven't developed my principles yet. That's probably why.
That's a very good point.
I haven't developed
You know,
it.
as-
I
I'm
think
learning
you haven't.
so
You
much.
haven't just like sat and thought about them and categorizing them
Maybe,
because you
maybe.
have. Because you have the. You say I'm not this that, but you just haven't verbalized it and canonized it yet.
you would know it if it came to you though, because it's something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable doing.
Does it
but
offend
you're
you?
gonna do it anyway because it's going to make you some money.
That's right.
Like, would
you
it
still
offend
have
you?
to compromise your. Well, it's just like a feeling, like
Okay. It's not.
like I don't really want to do this. Why am I doing this?
Oh.
Like that kind of thing. Like
Or
you know,
I
Yeah.
don't love it, but I'll do it because
it'd be
it's
like
popular, it
making,
pays.
it would be like someone paying you to make like a political piece for somebody who you don't.
Oh, represent. Or
When I was a
take
kid, I
in.
did some
Like,
TV
that would be
shit,
those
guys.
kinds
All
of
right.
principles,
Yeah.
social
When I was young, I
principles.
did some TV stuff, and I was just a kid, and I got lucky, made a little money to put me through college, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that was my art form to do like TV and stuff like that, and I escaped it, and I'm glad I did. But when I was in that space, I was a child, and my mom tried to explain to me certain things. I would get called for certain products, or every election season there was a lot of local ads that were running, right? And I remember her telling me, she's like, "You've been getting called for a lot of these political ads, and they happen every 2 to 4 years." And she was really good to me about it. Like, she let me understand what was happening so I could think about it and make a decision. And she said, they're going to ask you to say things. They're going to ask you to be a part of something where you're basically endorsing as an actor. Maybe you don't really feel that way or whatnot, but you're endorsing this person or this thing, or maybe a product that you don't. You need to start thinking about this stuff, because if you keep doing this, it's
You're
going
gonna
to be your
attached
life.
to it,
you know what I mean?
right?
And I think that it's the same way in anything, in any business or art. I'll get down to like the hardcore definition of sellout is when you sell your principles or your soul to
There you go.
that.
For money.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I understand that. Like, you sell your soul, right? You're selling out. But on that thought, hold on. Let me just pause this because it's getting.
All right, so we left off and we were waiting patiently for your best definition from an educated art history professor of graduation school. What is that point at which people sell out in art?
What's the point at which they sell out? So I'll tell you what my definition of selling out is, and then you can determine what their point of selling out is. So I think being a sellout, that's a loaded ass friggin' term, man.
Right.
You
There's a
know,
lot
straight
to
up.
it.
Because you got to go away from the term first and think about what gets you there to even say that. As an artist, you're doing something which is just inherent in who you are, and some people get down with it and they love it and they want to give you money, right? Awesome. And some more people want to do that. Oh, awesome. And so much that you think you can make a living off of it. Great. But you know, you don't do it necessarily for the living, because you do it because you can't help but not do it, because that's who you are, that's your nature. So when you go to do this, if you choose to make this your form of support and survival, then you're putting yourself in a position to where not only are you doing it for yourself to express, but to support your lifestyle, your structure. So so the goal is a little different, right? So the thing is as an artist, you can do some work that is just about what's coming from your heartbeat, and you can do some work that is going to satisfy those people out there, and because your style of creativity is going to help them satisfy their fucking heartbeat, because they can't do it, right? So and the thing is if you're in a company of people that only do shit for themselves, they're going to be like, oh, you're selling out because you're fucking doing shit that expresses them, you know? But at the same time, so you have to decide as an artist, are you going to only do work that's just about what's happening for you in your life and express that, which is totally fine. But if you love doing that so much that you want to do it not just for you, but for other people, and now it's a function, right? Okay, that's fine, but some people, like your homies, not in particular you guys, but you know,
the artists
are going to be
in
like, the art gallery is going to be like, oh, you're a sellout because you're selling your ability to communicate visually. But think about that shit. Like, oh, you're right, I feel terrible, but yeah, I can do this and I can communicate my shit, and I can also use it as a function to, you know, whatever. So I can sell that ability for other people. So some people will say as an artist, your loyalties are only to yourself because it's a voice, it's a vehicle of communication for yourself, and that's when it's true, right? And some people will be like, oh, well, if you do it and for other people, or you do it for something that betrays the core of who you are, but you lend your ability to do that to a different cause, and if that cause betrays what you are about, you are a sellout, right?
Yeah.
So think about it for a second. You're an accountant, okay? And you account, or a tax guy, and you help a lot of people get their taxes straight for the government so they can live, you know, stress-free. But if you also do it for somebody that maybe has some sort of business that you don't agree with.
Yeah, if you're cooking the books for the mafia, then you don't believe in that. You know, if you're against all the things that they do. Right,
but you're lending your abilities to them. Okay, then that's what some shit that you have to deal with. But see, that's I mean, our thing, the mafia, that's like super like hardcore, right? But for me, so the concept of a sellout is somebody that is betraying their core beliefs in order to make money. But with that, I will say that aside from that, I care to think about why someone would do that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because yeah, I can understand if you're just an artist and you have the privilege of just doing this art, and then like whatever, you know, like we were talking about before, like, oh, you know, we only paint in green, and I mean we don't paint in green, right? For our reasons. Okay, fine, creatively, we just betrayed our own manifesto. Fine. But if you're going to lean on your art to supply your electricity at your goddamn house, because instead of getting a regular day job that supports your studio, you're going to make your studio support your life. So now you have to do all this weird bullshit. Okay, fine. But I'm just like, if you are going to do something that is detrimental to who you are, or like betrays, or just like rotten, fine. But look, you gotta eat.
I just feel bad for all the artists that are
You gotta
really
fucking
into
eat,
putting.
man. Who does that? Who cares?
just-
Lawyers don't give a shit.
I just think about the artists that are really into putting chairs and broomsticks in corners, and then like when people stop paying for that, they're gonna have a rough time.
Dude!
They're gonna have to sell out.
You still gotta eat. And see, the thing is,
No,
like, I don't
I-
want to hear sellout. Sellout is given to us, but like
I'm teasing,
any other
but
profession.
I agree with what you're saying. I think that if you love art, and this is what you really want to do, and it doesn't pay, and you have a child and a family and a mortgage,
Right.
and you're living your art. You know what I mean? Your kids and your wife and your paintings are all your art.
Right.
So I don't look down on any artist who might change something up or do a commission or paint in green or whatever the thing is. I don't look down on them. I think you're right. I think it's when you sacrifice those core principles of who you are, because I think that's the answer in any industry, in any place in the world. I'll bastardize the comment, but like old Metallica quote, I don't know, Hatfield said something like, yeah, we're sellouts. We sell out every seat in every stadium in every state in every country in the world. You
Right.
know, like something like that. I don't know exactly what it was. And then you have these people they wanted the Justice for All version of Metallica, right? And now they're the Black Album version, and they're like, this isn't like that stuff. And that was put upon them. They are still Metallica. This is still the music that they make. This is the next version, 4.0, whatever the thing is. I was like, yeah, do whatever you do. I don't care. I don't listen to a lot of Metallica, so I don't care.
And see, that's the problem of like when you let other people when you mix the two,
Yeah.
where you are doing something that's coming from your heartbeat and something that pays the bills.
Yeah.
Those people that go to you for one particular product are gonna like be all like annoyed because you're growing as an artist. And when you mix the two, you gotta understand you're an artist. You're gonna grow and change. And that audience might not grow with you in the same fucking direction. So they're gonna call you a sellout, or you're this, you're that. And like, who of us is still doing the same shit we did in like 10th grade?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or like 1 year after high school when everyone thought you were so dope. Or 5 or 10 years after high school. Nobody's doing the same shit.
Yeah.
That's just connected to our humanity. So we're gonna grow and change. But if you were hyper connected to how I was back in 10th grade, okay, sorry. Fuck, I jumped off that train.
That's an interesting point,
You know?
because I didn't like really find the kind of art that I do until I was like in my early 30s, right? I didn't know what it was. I was doing all kinds of weird stuff. I would just try this and try that, but I never accepted like kind of a form and a genre and a scope of what I do until I was like 30 years old at least. And then I can look back at pictures of myself when I was younger and realize I knew it then. And then I spend a lot of time trying to justify it to the world,
Yeah.
right? And so like I felt like if I go, am I becoming a sellout? And I'm like, no, I was a sellout. I sold out for a long time, and my art suffered for it. And I worked crappy jobs. I worked really hard to make that art, but it was because in the back of my mind, I was hoping for a result or an outcome of that art. And that is against my own core principles. I just didn't know it yet.
To me, I feel like the notion of art versus applied arts.
Yeah.
You have art that's just functioning as an expression of whatever, of yourself. But then you have applied arts that has a function. So when your art starts to have a function, it could be a physical function that like, oh, I can drink out of this shit. But for you personally, and be like, oh, I can eat off of this shit.
Yeah.
And when you need your art to function for you, fuck you.
Yeah.
I need to eat. You know what I mean?
Don't define
Who
what gets
cares?
me through the day.
Right. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that, like, as me, I'm not gonna freaking, like, start, like, making super fucking dope Nazi paintings. that's when you gotta like question your shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but the Nazi community fucking digs my style.
Yeah.
Hey, but what about this? What about this? What about
You
this?
know,
What
the
about
white
this?
supremacists are fucking feeling my shit. Like, I gotta keep making it because I got bills, you know? I just saw
Exactly.
that air conditioning last month. Like, come on. That's when you gotta question your shit. But if you're just like, my shit happens to be sold in Target now. Like, you have the...
Oh, get all that Target
fuck
money.
you.
Get all that Target money because they're going to pay you a lot of money.
Get that Target money to support your fucking studio.
If that's what's going to
Like,
make you
goddamn
happy
it.
as a human, because I think that the point at which you sell out is not when you sell to Target, it's when, if you were absolutely fundamentally against selling to Target and then decided to.
Going against your principles.
Let's just say that, like, at the last, like, Black Lives Matter, I don't give a shit about it, but okay, let's say at the last, like, whatever protest for whatever the fuck you believe in, the people that showed up that were like, fuck you and what you believe in, whatever they had little Target symbols at the bottom, you know, their signs and their masks and their fucking guns and shit, and then you're like, but Target just offered me $1,000 to design their face mask, because I went to face mask and got some. I got face masks at Target. They're shitty, but I was just tripping out that they sold them. So if you support them and you know that they also support some crazy shit, that's like a question for you within your own spirit and your own shit. And if somebody calls you on that, you just got to deal with that shit. And I'm not like against it, you know, being questioned. Like, if you're out there already to be against that shit and you're supporting a system that's completely diametrically opposed to whatever the fuck you're trying to be for.
What's crazy is how much of, maybe not that exact, you know, scenario, but
Kruger
things
coffee.
like that we see, you know, it's you know, it's not uncommon.
It's not. And plus, things are so low key. You might be supporting some shit and not know it, you know?
Oh,
Kruger
and that's
coffee
huge.
makers.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, we're going to boycott them?
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know, they had Jewish slaves that were like
I
fucking
don't
making
know.
their bullshit. Kruger. Sorry, Kruger.
Yeah.
Okay. You
The-
edit that
the-
shit out. Whatever. It's just true.
But then there's another, and then there's like different levels to that. I mean, the only thing I ever heard about that specific issue was the waste. Huge amounts of waste. Like, just, you know, every single cup of coffee comes with like just an intense amount of waste.
Yeah.
And then they were like, yeah, we're going to fix that. And I don't know that they've made any change, but I don't see any changes
And
in
the
it.
Brazilians that are fucking like doing most of that shit. Whatever.
I need to find out more about that. Apparently, I need to go down that rabbit hole for sure. the Kruger rabbit hole.
Yeah, the Kruger. I only know about the Kruger, honestly, because I went to like edit this out, okay?
Fuck.
Yikes. Yeah, word, huh?
That's wow.
Salud.
Nobody's
I'm readdressing history. That's what this one is. It's a readdressing history, but in the most cosmic freaking way that you can, you know? It's going to be cosmic, and I've already started. So this...
What have you started? What is it? What is it? It is, what is it?
It's a readdressing. I'm readdressing history just like I have to do professionally within the books and address the things that have not been taught. I'm going to give visuals to that shit in the vein of like, more like Caravaggio, in a sense that he would have the homies and the people that were out and about, and he would use them to create like as the subjects for his artwork. That's what I want to do too. So I just want to use my right. You guys can be there, and I'd love to have you guys as subjects for some of my paintings where I'm just readdressing, not even readdressing, like addressing things that are happening now and readdressing things that have happened in the past, but with more actual, realistic, and factual people. Because to be truthful, all of us could have been like existing within we could have been the society when living in Egypt at certain points, you know, or living living in Greece, Greece, so-called freaking Greece, which is just a collective of a bunch of city-states and that were all like, you know, warring against each other and stuff. We could have equally have been Greeks back in the day. And they could have been a bunch of artworks that feature people that look like you. Definitely people that look like me. They don't know. People that look like you and you too. And I just want to put that, like, so I have to show that in class, and everyone's always like, oh, wow, oh my gosh, is that Hercules? That's Heracles? And you look at the oldest pictures of Heracles, who was Hercules, and he has a big afro, and he's a big black dude, like, what do you think when I say Hercules? What do you put in your mind when I say Hercules? But what did they put? The first people that made images of him. Yeah. This big brother? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Why? What happened? What's that story, right? Yeah. That's what I want to paint.
I think, whereas you do it with your students, you know, Fernando's budding, like he just said, and I believe him. Mm-hmm. I think you guys might have dismissed it, but he said, you know what? I can't sell out yet because I haven't defined what my art is, and I believe him.
Boom.
I believe he's a student and he's budding and he's going to get to that place where he defines his art. It took me till I was in my 30s. I mean, I don't know. Everybody has their thing, whatever that thing that draws them and grows them as an artist. But wherever we're at, like, you know, you and Rachel, you hold like civic responsibilities to artists. You're a teacher. She's involved in organizations that are there to support artists for the community, like municipally funded. You know what I mean? I'm an entrepreneurial artist. You know, I just kind of guerrillaed my way through it. Right. And Fernando's just getting there, you know? And I think all of us as artists have a responsibility to this time in history, you know, to do our best work, whatever that is, to not sacrifice ourselves to the point of selling out our souls or misleading the public, you know, by like whitewashing art, or, you know, the things that you're talking about right now, where you go, you know what, if you really take time with this history, you're going to find out that the imagery doesn't necessarily tell the story of what happened, and art was responsible for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Art can tell lies. And
no. Art told
people
the
tell
truth,
lies with art.
But people fucking
no, that's a better way. That's a better way to.
Art told the truth. That was the problem. Art told the truth, and the people did not want that truth, so they fucking did what they did.
And
so
then
we have to tell the truth.
Right. Someone used air quotes art to change the true art of the moment. And that's why I say we have like a responsibility to this time, because this is a very big deal, this time we're in. It really is.
It is.
And it will be looked back on and judged. And as artists, I think we definitely have the same level of integrity to keep as anyone else, whether it's a politician or a scientist or a doctor. Because, you know, some of the things that will really last over the course of time, people will look back and say, oh, this court case happened at that time, and we learned this about the coronavirus and whatnot. And they will also look for the emotion in that time, and what was it, and what were people thinking, and what were they feeling, and what came out of it at the end of it. I think that's really important.
I think art's like pretty traditional, right? And if you get influenced by, like, that's why I like going to art school and doing all these things. You go to art school, you get influenced by your professors and your teachers and everybody like that. And then you maybe a lot of probably kids or students don't know how to distinguish their own style to similarities in professors. And then you get like repetition of the style of art, right? You get influenced that these are like the boundaries that you know of because of your professor or your teacher, and then they're because you see them as like the end figure, but it's really that they're not the end figure. They're just teachers, like everything. That's why, like, I think being a student to everything in the world is like, that's what I try to be. You know?
Yeah. Don't stop at. I mean, I'm not saying don't go to university.
Of course not. You get educated in art, right? You could teach history. You can do all these things.
You bounce it off of everything else you learn,
of course,
from experience.
But my point was that I'm surrounded by individuals, you guys. So as a person coming up, like just I don't know. I'm not very educated in art. I take influence from everybody that speaks upon art and stuff. So it is a responsibility to be like, okay, there's
I think
people
we'll get
behind me.
I think we'll get some of the truest emotion versions of these events from people who weren't necessarily the most educated formally educated in art. I'm not saying we won't get that from those people as well, and it may be magnificent because of all the things that they've learned about technique.
That's right.
I'm not saying that they won't make amazing art because they know things. Of course not. Yeah. I'm just saying it's not limited to those who have been well studied in arts. You know what I mean?
I guess I'm speaking for like the people that can't afford to go to that school.
Right. And sometimes those are the ones that have the most, like the heaviest emotion to offer the palette. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones. I did my least best work every time I was doing well at life, because there was something in me that when I was struggling wanted to put that out there, like whether I was writing music or painting a painting.
You're expressing emotionally, like through,
Yeah,
three-dimensionally.
I don't think that it doesn't always have to be a bad scenario that creates art. I'm just saying sometimes we can get very comfortable with the feeling of general comfort. It takes away from our drive to claw at things, whether it's art or like social justice or whatever the thing is that's grabbing you. If nothing's grabbing you, then you're not going to react to it.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something about like art and art history and all this stuff? And you're like, oh, some people can afford to go to this school and that school. You know what those fucking schools are studying? One thing I can say, thank you, universe, which is like giving me such an interesting education in so many different places. We're not sitting here studying people that are hoity-toity. They're not making the books. You look into those art books, those art historical books, and they're studying people that are speaking from their heart. And that's it. And they're being true to themselves. And that's it. That's who's in the book. I mean, even like we can go to the most generic person that everybody talks about who's Van Gogh. Everybody knows Van Gogh. Who the fuck was Van Gogh? He had addiction problems. He had mental health issues to deal with. Okay, think about the times we're in right now. Addiction problems.
Of course.
Mental health. He was, poor. You know what I mean? He had all this fuck shit going on. He was the son of a freaking priest. He was a son of a priest. And he even wanted to be a priest, but they kicked him out because he was too overzealous, because he was so hungry for a community to understand him that he could represent and feel proud. But they were like, you're too much, bitch. Goddamn. Right? Because he was so hungry for that.
Extra, bro.
You're extra. He was extra. Right?
But that's how it has to be if you're going to make a change.
That's how he felt too. Well, he wasn't really concerned about that, apparently. I'm not his spokesperson, but from what I've learned all these years. So, but my point is, like, if you go through these books that we so-called pay a bunch of money to go learn from, there's stories of people that are just like everybody else, okay, telling their story. So you're paying a lot of money to study somebody that's telling their story in an interesting way, which you can do. Because if you study technique and you got a good way to do it and you have a beautiful story, which is going to be you, if you're true to it, you're done.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
A lot of kids don't understand, probably,
Yeah.
You just got to show them that.
Yeah, and like all these people, like freaking, there's a lot of these people that we study that are like freaking terrible, crappy ass people.
Of course.
I mean, real.
It's history, right? You got to learn from your history, not to do it again. That's how
you have to think about this. Like in Van Gogh's era, like,
look at his roommate.
The effort that you had to put in
to
being an artist, right?
Who? Yeah.
The fuck? Gogh was a pedophile motherfucker.
The name we do not say.
Gogh, bitch.
He moved to Tahiti.
You can't do.
Married a 13-year-old.
Left his family.
Left his family, his wife and children.
And
So-
was like married a 13-year-old
And then I had a 15-year-old like mistress.
and took a lot of and painted many little prepubescent girls. Gogh, who is just revered.
Do you think this? I have a
What's this bullshit?
serious question.
What's the name of the
We're
art?
on a good one now. We're going tinfoil hat. We're
Okay, I told
We're
you.
gonna go
I'm gonna tilt mine though. Somebody
go
get tilted tinfoil
right
hat.
down the rabbit hole right now.
Hashtag.
So earlier we spoke about a little bit about the infrastructure of art and you know the people at the top, the people who define art, because just like art is a market.
Right.
And take someone like that. Do you think that the art outweighs the person? Do you think that the art is so precious that we should respect it, knowing full well that that was the situation? Should we celebrate art of little girls being painted in
No, we should not
unnecessary
be
fashions? Like,
celebrating
because that's what I was talking about earlier is this. I hope that the power structures of art are questioned. I'm not saying tear the system down,
Right.
because it's all bad. I don't believe
either.
that.
That's like one.
But I do believe that we
dimension.
have some influence from people who are just worth a lot of money. And that influence is so powerful even in art. So kids grow up and they're like, you know, we went through this modern art phase. Modern art. This is modern. This is now, and you should be about this because we use the word modern. And at one point, Gauguin was modern. He was modern because he was that time in history, right? And we struggle with things like you brought up, you know, horrible things that we see in art, like pedophilia or whatever it is. Bad things. And they repeat in history because humans are humans and we do these terrible things. Not all of us, but it happens, and we've seen it over and over and over. I hope that people start questioning art to a point at which one of those paintings is not worth $500,000. It's worth nothing. It should be burned, because if the truth is, if we can prove from a historical standpoint that was true, you know, we can look back on text and imagery and whatever it is that says, yeah, this is probably the way it went down, then who's buying it? Who's selling it? Where's it being shown at? That's where I hope that these structures change. Where people stop and go, this is great art. I can get with this person who painted it. I'm not upset about the way that this gallery has treated it, and as far as the value and what they've done to put this artist's art out into the market. And instead we look at all these hyper weirdos with these hyper eccentric ideas that a chair and a broom in the corner of a room is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and lots of attention. You
know what? Fucking let it be worth all that attention. But don't let them make the fucking textbooks for everybody else in the motherfucking planet.
Yeah.
If they adore that shit, adore it. But don't make my kid think that shit's important.
Do you
know what I mean?
think-
That's kind of how I feel.
Do you think that there's a big divide between the people who define it with value and the people who teach it as art? Does it have to be
The people who teach it are teaching it. They're at a job, they're teaching it, right? And at the same time, you can teach some shit and add some new shit if you're fucking totally disturbed by the shit you're teaching.
It comes down to every single instructor, huh? Like every single learned historian is sharing with the next generation to go, yeah, this is really popular, it makes a lot of money, it's shown in the Louvre.
Yeah.
But there's some things you need to know
What's
about
up with the fucking Louvre? Where did you get your other shit?
Right.
Where did you get the shit that we're paying? Don't even get me started on the British Museum of Art.
Yeah.
The biggest, like, fucking collection of stolen fuckery from the planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And that's part of the problem that you're talking to. Like, who determines the value? And who determines the value in the art pieces and who and determines the value in the artist. And what if later you find out that artist that you valued and the picture of that little girl doing XYZ is beautiful, but then you found out that he raped her 7 times. Is the value still there? Or do we have a moral obligation to be like, that shit ain't cool anymore?
Yeah.
Can we be flexible like that? I think we should allow ourselves the flexibility to determine and redetermine as we learn new information as far as what it is, because
and call it
art's
in real time.
communicating.
You know what I mean? Like,
You know?
for me, I look at like artists in the moment in history where we're at right now, where that person got away with it in his own time.
Right.
Right? And I look at artists like Marina Bromley. Scares the living hell out of me. You know what I mean? That's stuff that I can't get with. I don't go in there and go, I would like to purchase this, or I would like to see that. Right? And obviously some people like it because there's a lot of money pumped into it.
Right.
You know? And I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed, and I don't like where you're going with it either. And that part is my opinion. The second part is I'm entitled to my own opinion, my own beliefs.
Right.
The first part is I'm not impressed, and I hope that other people aren't either. And I think we're seeing that. Because like, when you saw, like, she was doing a big, a virtual thing that everyone was supposed to be so, like, involved in. So much that Microsoft paid all the dough to make this virtual reality thing happen. And the people said no. No. I mean, it went up on the threads and, like,
What was
Facebook,
majority of no? Like, why not?
Dude, 25,000 people said,
Why?
nope, because stop and look at it. And maybe this isn't the moment to do it, but what I'm saying is we have to start questioning our art.
That's what I'm saying.
Is
Why
this where, is
like,
this where
what the
art
fuck?
stock is,
And they were
is
always-
moving toward? I'm just kidding.
Are we on an episode of it now?
Oh shit! There's a camera over there.
Oh no.
Arts talk.
Welcome back.
I think we're fantastic. Editing is key.
It's gonna be fun.
Well, how about this? Let's do this. I've had an excellent night tonight. We've gotten deep into the mud of art tonight, and I think that's what we need to do. I don't think art changes unless you sit down and dissect it, just like everybody does with every other market industry on earth. And we treat art in a way where we talk about things like what's a sellout, but we're all trying to make money. We talk about art in a way
So
where
unfair.
we go, what's pure? If you get it from someone else, then it's not. And we've reached a point in art right now where we need to sit and listen to art historians. And art historians need to sometimes check out from history and look what people are doing right now. Where is art going? And then we all have a responsibility to this moment in time. And I'm really glad you came out, Nicole. This was fun.
Yeah.
Was it? I hope so.
We've had an interesting go at trying to put together a conversation about art and to talk to people who have interesting thoughts and ideas on where it's going, what it's doing, sharing what they do. And we're really glad to have you. And we're going to sign off with that. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight.
Hey.
Nicole Green, Art Talk, signing out.